this is Wealth Psychology at Sylvia Global Media. I'm Emily Bouchard from Wealth Legacy Group, and we are here with Erik Newton of Heath-Newton LLP in San Francisco area, and we're talking about prenups. And you know, in the news in the past year or so, I've encountered different stories about especially younger people, people that have been pretty successful in making some money right up front, or they have a lot of hopes and dreams and they have new companies that they're starting, and they're actually putting things in their prenups like you know, like specific items, like little things that they own, or their cars, or like they're getting very honed and very specific about things. And I was wondering if you've encountered anything like that, or if you've seen anything that really is kind of crazy when like, has somebody ever come to you and said, here's a prenup we've drawn up and we think it's good, and you know, what do you have to say? So
yeah, people are definitely very specific about the assets that they want divided, and I actually find that to be pretty common. You know, a motorcycle collection that somebody's acquired prior to marriage, or an art collection, or you know, real estate, and we like to be very, very specific and detail oriented about those things. It makes people comfortable, and comfort is 95% of the battle here.
Definitely.
The crazy clauses, I'll call them. Actually, let me rephrase that. The clauses that the media thinks are crazy, but that I actually think are perfectly acceptable if it's useful for the marriage.
Oh, I'm so glad you said it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because really, again, it's 95% of this thing is comfort, right? And being able to communicate expectations and needs and desires. And if you need to put in something that your mom's not going to understand, but that makes your marriage stronger, do it. And I will support you in doing that. That's what we're here for. And the unfortunate fact about some of those clauses, though, is that they're not enforceable under California law. And if they're not handled appropriately, they can actually weaken the agreement. So an example would be a clause having to do with sexual relationships. Because we live in a no-fault divorce state in California, which is a very good thing. It means that people can get divorced if they need to. They don't have to prove cruelty or any of these outdated concepts that you hear about in the movies, 40s. We live in a no-fault divorce state. And the implication of that for prenups is that you cannot hold somebody accountable for adultery or sexual dalliances, or any kind of sexual clause at all that you might want to include is not enforceable by a court. That said, I think it's very important, if you're extraordinarily clear in your relationship, that some component of your relationship needs to be memorialized up front. And an example of this is something that I think you and I are going to talk about later, which is polyamorous couples.
Yeah.
There's a lot of polyamorous couples in the Bay Area. And
for those of you who are tuning in and have never heard that term before, it is a term that is being used to describe couples that are openly choosing to say, I'm committed to you, you are my primary partnership, and we're definitely married, and our marriage includes being able to have other people that we also are intimate with in different ways. And people just find this across the board, and Erik is very aware of this, and when it came up in a prior interview, I asked him if he would come back on the show and, you know, really educate some people around what is this whole phenomenon of polyamory, and what are the legal implications of it, and we'll talk about the emotional side of it too. So thanks for bringing that up now, and this is really key. So if a couple comes to you and they're saying, look, we have this as a really important premise in our relationship, and this is what it means as a primary couple, and this is what it means, then they can almost use their prenup to kind of determine their code of honor around their behavior around this lifestyle.
Right. Yeah, and it requires two things. One is to really explore and to be very certain that the couple knows what their rules are. Now, polyamorous couples are very intentional and very mindful about their process. They've given this a lot of thought. They usually have attended courses and classes on how to structure their relationship. You know, they're very clear about it, so we don't have to do too much of finding out what the rules are. But once we've clarified what the rules are, we can put them in the prenup. And The second component, though, is that we need to be very clear in the prenup that we understand that this is not enforceable under California law, but we're including it anyway because we think it's important to memorialize the agreement in advance, but we don't mean it to detract from the validity of the rest of the prenup. It is enforceable. So it can be included, and I think it should be included, but it needs to be included in a very specific, legally structured way.
You know what that brings to mind for me is something that I learned a long time ago, which is we have this idea that because I love you, I need to trust you. And memories change, and agreements that we thought we had that were really clear, we have different interpretations of. And
so true.
Whether you're in a marriage partnership or a business partnership, any kind of partnership you're in, it's really essentially important to have whatever agreements you have around your partnership in writing. And this is such a wonderful way, like you said, to really memorialize it. And look, we care enough about this. We're paying a lawyer to help us articulate this really clearly and specifically. And what I recommend so strongly for couples is to really write down what is it that their values are, what is it that's core for them, that they can keep going back to, that's written, that's tangible, so that when there is conflict that comes up, they get to both look at that together. And it's something outside of their emotional state, and it's something that's written, and that often can replace trust as we talk about it as, wow, we trusted each other enough to draw this up, and now we get to see how we're putting this into action. So it sounds like that's what you're bringing to these relationships. It's really great.
It is. You know, you raised a point that I want to address, which is that it's so important to talk in advance because memories change. There goes my phone again.
Well, let's hold on. This is really good, and I want to make sure the next segment gets this. And this will be our final segment on prenups and the emotional impact of prenups.